Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a main stage spectacular fireside chat. We cannot be more honored here today, to have, Mr. Namir Hourani, who is, I mean, indisputably one of the leaders of social innovation. He's the managing director of the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit. Um, Namir, why don't you introduce yourself to the Asian audience here, and particularly if you can, give an overview of the Mohammed bin Rashid Initiative for Global Prosperity in addition to GMIS.
Sure. Quite a broad question in terms of introducing myself. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored to be here with you today, Kenneth. I really relate in many different ways when I introduce myself. There's the career perspective of things, which has really shaped the person that I am today. And then I have, personal passions that drive who I am today. From a career perspective, I'm the managing director of the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit, which runs multiple initiatives. We run an annual conference which brings thought leaders together from the manufacturing community to discuss and shape the future of the manufacturing sector. And one of the initiatives that we have, which is our social impact initiative, is the Mohammed bin Rashid Initiative for Global Prosperity. And it's in a nutshell, it's ultimately an open innovation platform that is really driven by the idea or by the belief that innovation can truly solve world challenges or world problems. And what we do, we post 4 challenges every year that we launch alongside the United Nations General Assembly in September of every year in New York City. And we open them up to innovators and entrepreneurs all over the world to come in and submit solutions. And the way we encourage innovators to come and submit solutions is we put cash prizes behind the winning solutions, but we also partner with global organizations who provide mentorship and guidance to these startups. And ultimately, the initiative was named in honor of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who's the Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Dubai. And he's always been a big advocate of innovation and solving real world problems. So this is really how the initiative was born.
I mean, I can, just feel your passion, even though we are on Zoom and I am a couple thousand miles away from you, sir. I mean, the energy that you speak with creating social innovation is so powerful. I can literally feel it and shake, when I hear this. But allow us to understand a bit more about you in a personal sense. Like, what is your source of passion? You're a serial entrepreneur, and as we all say, nothing is better than taking what you love doing and make it a day job and a night job and a part-time job. Is that your case, sir? I mean, you have so much, to give every day.
So Kenneth, I started off, as a serial entrepreneur, as you said, and I do run and operate multiple private businesses here in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. And then, it's a long story, but I was pulled in and called on to head up the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit. So when I took up the role of managing director at the summit, and the summit is really about us highlighting how technology that are driven by the fourth industrial revolution are impacting the manufacturing sector, and ultimately creating or enabling a more agile manufacturing sector, and therefore leading to a more sustainable global economy, which leads to global prosperity. And I'm making that link so that the audience can really understand how that led to social innovation. And through this initiative, through the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit, we work with multiple different stakeholders. So we're working with governments, high-level government representatives. We're working with academia. We're working with some of the largest organizations in the world, but we're also working very closely with startups and innovators. And we're realizing that startups and innovators today are playing a much, much larger role, even in impacting the manufacturing sector vis-a-vis providing new technologies or innovations to, let's say, large organizations. So this led us to think, how can we engage better and in a more structured way with these startups and with these innovators? And this, thought process started evolving, and we said, how can we direct some of that innovation to making our world a better place? And we said, can we solve real world challenges through encouraging these startups and innovators to direct these innovations towards real world problems? And this is really how this started. And I'll tell you, from a personal career perspective, I'm a passionate entrepreneur. I love what I do on a private level, but social innovation, this has been something that was, that I've only gotten into over the last 2 to 3 years. And I tell you, nothing has been more rewarding than social innovation for me, because it really addresses two of the things that I love, entrepreneurship and making a difference. So it's been just absolutely rewarding.
And, and based on my research, you are a father of 4, right? I am sure that, the legacy that you are leaving behind for your children perhaps is also a motivating factor for you, because, I can imagine you want their world to be better and continue to be impactful and sustainable. I mean, as a father, and this is why I love these type of fireside chats, because we can get a bit more personal, right? What advice, would you give, the next gen leaders in Asia in finding and harnessing this passion that you, again, is so infective? I mean, it's so charming. And this is why we have you on day one, sir. We hope everyone else in this conference will also be as passionate as what you do.
Thank you, Kenneth. Look, you're really touching on something that's close to my heart. A father of 4, see firsthand how children today are more concerned about our world and our planet. And the reality is, because we do live in a generally more conscious world, right? Everybody, even the older generation, are becoming, more conscious about the environment and about what's good and about what's bad. So children are growing up in that environment. My children are growing up in a household, Kenneth, where plastic is frowned upon because it's just not good for your environment. A walk in the beach could often end up with us picking up trash because there shouldn't be litter in public places. When my kids shower, I control how long that shower goes on for, because I want them to grow up and be conscious about the reality that water is scarce and it shouldn't be taken for granted. So these, they're already growing up, and they know they can make a difference. They want to make a difference, and this is very important. So when it comes down to the future leaders, this next generation of future leaders, something I would tell them is, try to place social innovation and social impact at the forefront of your decisions, and you will end up making the right decisions. You will always surely end up making the right decision.
I mean, again, I completely agree with you in terms of building core values. Who you are as a character will really, impact the world. And I mean, your kids are going to be future SDG ambassadors, and I can't wait to hear about them individually. They're amazing stories. Speaking of SDGs, I understand, one of the partner for, the initiative is, UNIDO, and COVID happened, and I was actually, as I told your team, one of the saddest moments was when, our April summit was canceled, which is the right move, clearly. I was so looking forward to meeting you in person, sir. Talking about COVID, like, again, 2020 has changed, right? how are you making lemonade out of lemons, right? What is the progress so far on your side?
Sure. So again, from an initiative standpoint, so if we really take it down to the initiative of the initiative for global prosperity, little has been impacted actually. If any, from that perspective, this initiative has purely been online, right? It's always been online. The entire process is online. I host my challenges on my website, on my platform. When we launched them in September in New York, they're posted on our platform. The submission process for the solutions is purely online. The judging process that's done through our judging panel is purely online. So really, the initiative relies on an internet connection. If you have an internet connection, you're able to participate in that ecosystem, and this is amazing, right? So, but obviously, where COVID is going to make an impact on us is so our initiative is driven by the 2030 agenda for sustainable development by the United Nations. You will notice that almost every one of our challenges that are launched are in line with one or more of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So where you were correct is UNIDO is a co-chair of ours at the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit. But for the Initiative for Global Prosperity, I actually have over 10 UN entities that we partner with. So the UN entities help us drive these challenges. These guys have boots on the grounds. They understand what the world is, some of the challenges that our world is facing. And to a certain degree, they can even predict what some of the future challenges are. So our challenges are almost always in line with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I have no doubt that the COVID situation will likely mean that there's a lot more focus on pandemics, viruses, diseases. And incidentally, actually, our first cohort did have one of the themes of one of the challenges was sustainable cities. And the challenge question was how can technology be used to avoid the spread of the next pandemic. So we've, as soon as the COVID situation happened, we dug out a lot of the solutions that were presented to us at the first cohort. We're in touch with a lot of these startups and innovators. We're trying to understand, our challenge was hypothetical. How can you solve some of these issues? But the reality is we do have a pandemic now. What are these guys doing today, and how are their solutions helping to overcome the pandemic that we're facing today? And we're seeing amazing results. We're seeing some amazing things. And if anything, this COVID situation really just, if you want, does so much in terms of confirming that this initiative is so important, because innovation is really a driver towards making the world a better place. And we're seeing innovation play a role in this pandemic today in terms of at least, maybe not getting us out of it, but at least making it a bit easier for us to continue with as normal a life as possible.
And as we all know, UAE is one of the world's biggest hub for social innovation, technology, the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, it is essentially, we say it's part of the DNA of the UAE, being innovative. I mean, this is how history was created, right, in many ways. One question follow up for you, sir, is, Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival. We have, 17,000 delegates, right, from 50 countries participating. This year, we're so honored that I think a larger membership from UAE is joining, not just at the Startup Impact Summit, but throughout the entire Start Me Up Festival. So hopefully that will create a lot of know-how sharing, expertise, and frankly, maybe just making new friends who are into social innovation, because that really leads to a ripple effect. Being who you are and wearing so many leadership hats, right? What would you like the Start Me Up Hong Kong community to work with GMIS and the initiative on, so that when we do meet in 2021, what can we achieve together? Do you have a vision? Do you have certain objectives? We are all very excited to work with you, sir.
I'll tell you something, Kenneth. The one thing that I've learned, when after I took up this role and working on the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit and the Initiative for Global Prosperity is partnerships are key, right? We have great visions, we have the manpower to deliver on this vision, but without the right ecosystem, without the right partners, none of that would be possible. So in my opinion, when I look at what you guys are doing, we're speaking the same language. We share very similar values. We both want to see startups and innovators succeed and make a difference in our world. And I have no doubt that many startups in our community would benefit tremendously from your ecosystem and would welcome the support to expand into the Hong Kong market and into the Asian market. So I think we're very aligned in our visions, and I would love for us to tap into this and really help the wider ecosystem because of that common vision.
Yeah. I remember when you talk about vision, it deals with imagery, right? I mean, as I always remember, imagination starts with having images in your head. If I remember correctly, sir, every challenge that you do, not only are they SDG backed, they're also, I was told it was a immersive sensory experience because there's a documentary style film being filmed. I mean, you guys go the whole way, right, of making sure that people feel innovation. I mean, how do you drive that and making youth so excited about your challenges? Because again, it's not just about doing a challenge, it's really learning from them. I mean, we'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
It's been such an amazing experience, not just for me, for the entire team that's worked on this, Kenneth. It really was triggered when we were experimenting on or trying to explore what challenges to launch for our first cohort. Obviously, the first thing we did was we reached out to our UN partners. And the one thing that stood out, and it really, really stood out, was when I spoke to a UN representative that had a desk job, that was sitting on a desk in an office. He knew what he was talking about, or she knew what they were talking about. They were passionate about it. But when I spoke to a UN representative that was on the ground, on the field, the passion was on another level, right? So they would describe it because they would see it, they would experience it, and the way they described it was tremendous. And it made you feel like you were a part of it. So that triggered the thought with us, and we said, every challenge that we post, how can I make it feel real? Because if I make it feel real, the ecosystem is going to want to participate. They're going to want to come in and solve these challenges. And the only way to make it real is for us to actually have a filmed documentary, really bringing the story to life. And I'll tell you how this even impacted my colleagues at the office. So we have a film or videography and a video production team. Whenever the challenges were identified, these guys were getting on a plane, they were identifying certain cities or villages or countries that are facing these challenges, and they were filming these documentaries and they were interviewing people. And naturally, they were coming back to the office, and while they're working on their computer and putting that video together, they're talking to their colleagues and explaining to them what they really saw and talking to us about the person that they interviewed. And they were so passionate about it because it's real. They're seeing the real story evolve. And all of a sudden, when that film or that documentary was completed and our colleagues were watching it, they were able to relate. They were going back to the stories that the film crew were telling us that they experienced on the ground. And so watching that film made it so real, so impactful. And if you think I'm passionate, you should meet my team. Every single one of our colleagues is so passionate about what they do. They really want to make a social impact, and all of a sudden, this has become something that's driven from within and not purely driven, by me as a leader. It's something that's coming in from the heart, and it's amazing to see it. Amazing.
And that's why I think, I believe you have had 8 challenges or so, but
Yes.
again, 4,500 solutions. I'm sorry to say, sir, we actually have to learn from you. We don't get this type of excitement. It's oh, sorry, one more statistic: 148 countries. You are essentially the UN of
And,
innovation.
you
I
know,
mean,
and to touch on this, and to touch on the 148 countries, oh, in some cases, some of our challenges had over 50% of the solutions coming in from what are considered least developed countries, what the United Nations considered least developed countries. So these are, in some cases, countries that are on the brink of poverty, and these people are still able to churn out and push out amazing innovations. And the reality is, because they're going through these challenges, they face these challenges every day. And when your back is to a wall, Kenneth, you have no choice but to be innovative and but to come up with solutions.
absolutely. And the SDGs themselves embody the fact that we are one world. We all have to look after each other. That's why we have the 17 SDGs. I mean, sir, you're really inspiring, and I don't mean to flatter you in that sense, but if every single person who has the mindset and the resources, and more importantly, as you said, the passion, I think it will really go a long way inspiring even the everyday heroes of our lives to just be a bit more innovative and a bit more sustainable and a bit more impactful, and the whole world would completely change. Um, I'm sure we can talk for hours and hours, and for this particular, main stage panel, sir, do you have any last words of pearls of wisdom for us who, most of us, by the way, in this conference are, I think, aged 19 to 27, all first time founders, or, just want to make a social difference. Um, Again, if there are any more, experiences or ideas or insights you can share, I think we'll all greatly benefit from you, sir.
Thank you, Kenneth. And look, the one advice, one single piece of advice I would give, it's passion. It's all about passion. And when you're I've had startups that failed. I've had to shut down businesses. It's not an easy process, but you have two choices, right? Either you continue to let that passion drive you, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you say, it failed, I'm going to learn from my experience, and I'm moving on to the next idea. Or you sit and dwell about it. And the reality is, dwelling about it is not going to get you anywhere. Let that passion drive you. It's fire, right? It's fire. It brings that out in you. And passion can be multiple different things. Social innovation is amazing. And if you can combine your entrepreneurial skills with a better place, that formula is just unbreakable, completely unbreakable. So just do whatever it is that you're doing, do it with passion. Don't be demotivated if you fail. And I always tell my kids, you can fail once, you can fail twice, you can fail 9 times, but you might pass the 10th time. But if you didn't try on the 9th time and you gave up on the 9th time, it's over. The passion, nothing will kill the passion. It's fire inside you. Keep it going, let it drive you, and you're going to get to that point where you achieve what you want to achieve and make the world a
Right.
better place.
Absolutely. I mean, one last thing, sir. It's talking about being change makers. There is a global maker challenge in Abu Dhabi. Um, what is the next event essentially? Because I'm sure you're getting every one of us fired up. You're saying we have to participate, right? What is the next event that you believe the Start Me of Hong Kong community can actually join in terms of a challenge or an event or whatnot?
Sure. So the Global Maker Challenge actually is not Abu Dhabi based, right? It's a global.
Uh,
It's
uh,
more challenges that we post on our platform. We are wrapping up cohort 2, and cohort 3 is actually in parallel already, something that we're working on. So before the end of this year, I would say even closer, over the next 3 to 4 months, we'll be launching cohort 3, which is another set of 4 challenges. I would love for Start Me Up Hong Kong to help us to tap into the startup ecosystem in Asia, encourage people to come up with solutions to these 4 challenges. There are a lot of cash prizes up for grabs, over $500,000 in cash prizes. And then in some cases, a lot of people value the mentorship and the guidance more than the actual cash prizes. And we are partnering with incubators, accelerators, global organizations all over the world. They all want to make a difference. They all want to participate. And one way these global organizations participate is by coming in and supporting these startups to teach them how to scale their solutions, and ultimately help them to make that impact even bigger. So this cohort, is open for anyone all over the world, and we'd love to see participation from Asia coming in.
Absolutely. And in Chinese, number 3 means being alive. So we cannot wait, to come
Amazing.
and make it even more alive for everyone.
Amazing. I'm taking this back
Cohort
to the
3,
team tomorrow and telling them that, this is something that we should strive for.
right? So, I mean, sir, again, it has been a wonderful 30 minutes learning from you. Thank you so much for sharing your personal and professional experiences with what you do at GMIS and, and the initiative. I mean, it is really thought provoking. And I look forward to one day, having you more connected, more engaged with driving the passion out of the Asian startup community so that we can all benefit from a better, more innovative, and a more sustainable manner. On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Namir Hourani, Managing Director of GMIS. Have a wonderful
Kenneth,
day.
thank
Thank
you
you,
so
sir.
much. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to make a commitment on air here, Kenneth, that
Perfect.
as soon as it becomes easier for us to travel and move around, I'll make sure that one of our road shows takes place in Hong Kong, and that will be the beginning of our way to really tap into the Asia market and encourage people to participate, and play this major role with us together.
I cannot wait.
Thank you,
Seriously.
Kenneth.
Thank you, Namir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kenneth. Take care.
Okay.
Take care, Kenneth. Bye-bye.
Bye.